Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
The beauty of democratic politics is its characters. And the fun of a political journalist's life is about dealing, interacting, understanding, analyzing, criticizing, sometimes praising those same characters. Without that, life would be very dull. So, if you look at Indian politics in those terms, especially if you look at the period in which I've been watching Indian politics, either as an observer, outsider, a student, or then as a journalist, you take it to about 40 years. And one of the key characters of these 40 years announced his retirement yesterday, that is Mr. Lal Krishan Advani. Why do I say go back about 40 years? Because until about 1975, Mr. Advani was not that well known. Because even in what used to be the Jansangh then, the more prominent leaders were others, led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Mr. Advani was not really a spectacular speaker. He was not particularly a mass leader. He was a leader. He was a good mind, but he was sort of in the second rung. During the emergency, he was not sentenced, he was jailed by Mrs. Gandhi under whatever laws she used, usually Maintenance of Internal Security Act. When he came out, he became Information and Broadcasting Minister in the Janta government. And that's when he really became the towering figure. It started becoming the towering figure that he finally emerged as. So, as I&B minister, one, he interacted with the media, but it was called journalists then, nobody used the word media a lot. He also made that famous statement that during the emergency, when asked to bend, India's journalists crawled. He was right about most organizations and most journalists, not all, but that quote has sort of stuck with him. And then he acquired a very good understanding, besides other things, of the way Indian media works, and he also figured the importance of the Indian media. And he knew that if the BJP, Jansangh, which later became BJP, and he'll never tire of telling you that it happened on a Friday. So he says, just as Christ had his resurrection, it was on an Easter Friday. Jansangh also became BJP, so re-emerged or had a second birth on an Easter Friday. Remember, unlike most other contemporaries of his in the Jansangh RSS in his times, he was one of the very few who had English medium education and could bring these lines to you. So he is an interesting character. Sometimes if you interacted with him one-on-one, it looked like he's liberal, he's Catholic, he's forward-looking, he has some reading unlike many others. But if you saw his actions, they were much more conservative. So then from 77 onwards, and then we all know what happened, Janata Party broke and the Jansangh again went out on its own. It became more ideologically pure, it grew some, then it got demolished in 1984. In 1984, BJP was down to 2 seats in parliament. I've said this many times before, I'll say again. After that election, Rajiv Gandhi said that he had declared, or Congress had declared, 10 plus 2 plus 3 scheme for India's opposition. So one party had 10, one had 2, one had 3. The party with 2 seats in the opposition, besides Janata Party and Socialists, was BJP, just 2 seats. And remember, that's the election in which Mr. Vajpayee also lost. He lost to Madhav Rao Scindia. So from then, the job of rebuilding the BJP was essentially done by Advani. Since in India, we'd love to use the Kautilya Chandragupta analogy, BJP / Jansangh's post 84 rebuilding was all done in a manner where, say, Vajpayee was the front, so the sovereign, the Chandragupta or the sovereign to be, and Advani the Kautilya. So it was Advani's mind, and much that happened since then, particularly, most importantly, the Ayodhya movement. Remember Advani's Rath Yatra. That positioned the BJP where it always wanted to be, or where it always should have been if it wanted to build a politics of right-wing Hindutva, Hindu belief. Mr. Vajpayee would have found it difficult to do that. Advani did that, and he did this in the most cynical fashion. To that extent, just as no political figure is perfect, and just because they retire or go away, we should not only say good things about them or bad things about them, we have to assess them fairly. So, while Mr. Advani is the builder of the new BJP and the builder of the BJP's success to today's level, which when it dominates India's politics from being reduced to just 2 seats in national parliament just 35 years ago. The credit for that goes enormously to Mr. Advani. In fact, he is the primary architect of the rise of BJP as a national mainstream party. But also at the same time, he achieved it by dividing India on a Hindu, non-Hindu, Hindu-Muslim basis as no other Indian politician has done. So, the great builder of the BJP and the great builder of the Hindutva politics is also the great divider of Indian people. Mr. Advani emerged in the last 35 years as India's most successful politician. He is behind Narendra Modi's success also. As India's most successful politician, but also as India's most divisive politician. That is something he cannot get away from. And what's happened as right now is some people feel sorry for him. People who hate Narendra Modi say, oh, dekha, he's done this to LK Advani. But first of all, that is the principle of life. Most big shots, great leaders, great sovereigns, great kings are finally either stabbed in the back or poisoned or consigned to a Margdarshak Mandal by young people who they may have built at some point of time. That is the way of life. It's survival of the fittest. That's how it works in the animal kingdom, right? Where you often carnivorous animals, the young ones, the offspring will eat up their own parents as the parents grow old and are wounded occasionally. Sharks. Politics is no different. So, let's not judge Narendra Modi and Amit Shah for what they have done. Let's use this opportunity to make an assessment only of LK Advani. So, one side of LK Advani is the man that he became. On the good side, I told you, he built BJP into this force. On the bad side, because he divided. He built the BJP by dividing. And Vajpayee gave him cover in the sense that what he was dividing, Vajpayee was making it sound not so bad. And you always had the feeling that, look, if things get too bad, you can go to Vajpayee. He will apply the healing touch. We saw this after Gujarat riots and killings of 2002. But who saved Narendra Modi then, when we knew that Atal Bihari Vajpayee was fully determined to remove him? We've seen detailed accounts of that flight from Delhi to Goa, where the BJP party meeting was taking place. The conversation between LK Advani, Jaswant Singh, Vajpayee and Arun Shourie, who was present there, and many people have recounted that conversation. It's quite evident that it was Mr. Advani who saved Narendra Modi on that day. And maybe he did the right thing by his party because he saw Narendra Modi as the future of the party, and he was an ideological person. For him, the most important thing was to strengthen his party, to strengthen his ideology, to make sure that one day India is ruled by BJP with a full majority. And if we saw Narendra Modi as that successor who will take it forward, he can actually sit back and take great pride in his achievement and say, look, the call I took in 2002 worked. The call I had taken in 1986-87 to build the Mandir movement also worked. So, I have a very successful life. I am a Swayam Sevak. I came into the party when the party counted for nothing. I saw the party go down to 2. I have also seen the party come up to 283 and maybe set to build a second term. Who knows? BJP is the front runner right now. So, he can retire with great satisfaction. What he cannot complain about is that, look, I wasn't given my due, because he was never a mass leader. He was always the number 2 who drove the mass leader. He was a Kautilya who needed a Chandragupta. No Kautilya can become a Chandragupta. If they do, they come a cropper. In his case, the person he built as the party, as a successor to his generation, logically became the successor to his generation. So if that person and that leadership has now thrown him out or rejected him, or shown, even if he has shown disrespect for him, it's a complaint that maybe some Advani fans might have, or ironically, it's not even Advani fans, it's people who detested him as a divisive figure till the other day, who just think today that Modi and Shah are more divisive. So in comparison, they feel sorry for Advani. Also, it's a good way to try and troll Modi and Amit Shah. You ask me, do I have sympathy for Mr. Advani? No. Do I have respect and affection for him? Yes. What is it that I find most valuable about him as a public figure? His accessibility and his open-mindedness. So many people I've dealt with, I've rarely found a leader as willing as he to open up his mind and speak his mind. I remember a walk the talk that I recorded with him in the run-up to the 2009 elections, when his autobiography had just come out. We talked about the nuclear deal and he admonished me. And of course, he said nuclear deal is all rubbish, it's signing away India's sovereignty. And he said in that walk the talk, you can find it on YouTube, he said, oh, that's a nuclear deal that that is Shekhar Gupta, you seem to support even more than the Congress party. The fact is, what happened? I mean, we supported the nuclear deal because we thought it was in India's interest. What happened after that? When Narendra Modi came to power, he in fact took that nuclear deal and Indo-US strategic partnership to the next level, to a much higher level. So you saw a man, a titan, Mr. Advani, but also showing very poor intellectual integrity at that point. He was so desperate to come to power in 2009 that he would make anything an issue. You can say every politician did it, but if Mr. Advani also did what every politician did, then there is nothing special about him. He was also yet another politician. And I do remember Dr. Manmohan Singh, who rarely attacks anybody in parliament, he said in his speech after the vote of confidence on the nuclear deal, which the Congress won or UPA won, he said something like Mr. Advani still clings to his astrologer's promise that one day he'll become the Prime Minister of India. So whether he was right or not, I think if you ask me, astrology is all bunkum, and I'll be deeply disappointed if I were to believe that Mr. Advani genuinely is driven by the astrologer's advice. But if you ask me, he had 3 great opportunities to retire and go gracefully. 2004, when the BJP lost or NDA lost. 2009, when it lost again with him as prime ministerial candidate. 2014, when he was sidelined, he just dragged it too long. So I will conclude this by reminding you of something that Sunil Gavaskar said once. You know, in 1987, in Bangalore against Pakistan, Sunil Gavaskar played probably his best innings. I think 97 or 90 something not out, 19 out, in a chase against Pakistan that India lost by a few runs. It was a broken wicket and Pakistan had very good spin bowlers. I think Iqbal Qasim and Tausif Ahmed. So after that great innings, he announced his retirement and people asked him why. And he said that, I think he said, quoting Vijay Merchant, that you should retire or you should go when people say why now, instead of people saying why not. So Mr. Advani lost all his why now moments. He came to a why not moment. So once again, I will remember him and I will interact with him as a great titan of Indian politics. I would say at the same time that he really played his politics very poorly over the last 15 years.